The morning sun had barely climbed above the glass towers of the city when the millionaire decided that someone had to go, and in that quiet, polished mansion, the decision felt as cold and sharp as a blade. Armin Hellevai stood near the wide living room window, watching light spill across marble floors he no longer admired, his heart heavy with irritation and a lifetime of disappointment. He believed he had learned one simple rule after losing too much and trusting too little: people always disappointed you eventually. That belief hardened his face as he prepared to fire the maid, unaware that a single, fragile moment was about to crack everything he thought he knew. If you believe that kindness deserves second chances and that small moments can change even the hardest hearts, take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Journal. Your support helps keep stories like this alive. Armin Hellevai had built his fortune through discipline, distance, and a refusal to let emotion interfere with decisions. His days followed precise routines, especially during daylight hours when he preferred clarity and control. The mansion reflected him perfectly: clean lines, pale colors, sunlight flooding every room without warmth. For years, staff came and went without leaving a mark on him, their lives distant and temporary. But lately, things felt different in a way he did not like. Objects misplaced, tasks unfinished, small disruptions in a world he kept tightly ordered. The maid, Samira Qureshi, had become the symbol of that disorder in his mind. She arrived early each day, left quietly before evening, and rarely looked him in the eye, yet Armin convinced himself that her presence unsettled him because it reminded him of something he had buried long ago. Samira's mornings began long before sunrise. In a modest apartment filled with pale daylight filtering through thin curtains, she prepared herself and her young son, Ryan, for another long day. She moved with gentle urgency, her hands steady but tired, her face lined with concern she tried to hide. Life had not been kind since her husband passed away years earlier, leaving her with debts, grief, and a child who spoke less than other children his age. Still, Samira believed in dignity. She believed that honest work mattered, and that no matter how heavy life became, she would never let her son feel like a burden. During daylight, she carried that belief with her into the mansion, cleaning spaces larger than her entire home, careful not to leave a trace of herself behind. Armin noticed her struggle in subtle ways but refused to acknowledge it. He saw how she paused occasionally, pressing a hand to her back, how she worked through discomfort without complaint. Instead of empathy, he felt annoyance, because weakness made him uncomfortable. Weakness reminded him of the year his own world collapsed under grief and loss, when money could not save what mattered. That was why he kept his distance, why he chose efficiency over compassion. In his mind, firing Samira was a practical decision, one that would restore order and remind everyone, including himself, that emotions had no place in his carefully constructed life. The day he decided to end her employment, the sun poured generously through the windows, casting long reflections across the hallway. Samira had brought Ryan with her that morning because the neighbor who usually watched him had fallen ill. She hesitated before entering the mansion, daylight illuminating her worry, but she had no choice. She settled Ryan quietly in a corner of the living room with a small notebook and colored pencils, reminding him to stay silent and respectful. The boy nodded, his eyes thoughtful and observant, absorbing the world around him with a seriousness beyond his years. As Samira cleaned, Armin watched from a distance, irritation building. He told himself this was the final straw, that professionalism mattered more than circumstances. The decision felt firm until he approached her, intent on ending the arrangement swiftly. Samira sensed the tension before he spoke, her hands trembling slightly as she continued working, daylight revealing the fear she tried so hard to hide. She already knew. When survival depends on fragile stability, you learn to read the air. Before Armin could finalize his decision, something unexpected happened. Ryan, quiet and unnoticed until then, looked up from his drawings and studied the man towering in the room. The boy's eyes held an innocence that cut through the space like sunlight through fog. He stood slowly and took a hesitant step forward, his small presence barely casting a shadow on the polished floor. He leaned close to Armin, as if sharing a secret meant